Tae-sung wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the rice fields stretching before him. The sun was setting over the mountains, painting the sky orange and purple. He had been working since dawn, just like every other day for the past 20 years. This land belonged to his grandfather, then his father, and now him. It was good land, simple land, honest land. He walked through the rows of vegetables, checking each plant with careful eyes. The tomatoes were growing well. The cabbages needed more water. Everything had its season, its rhythm. Tae-sung understood these rhythms better than he understood people. Plants made sense. You gave them what they needed, and they gave you food in return. The chickens clucked in their pen as he passed. The old cow, Bomi, looked up from her grass and made a low sound. Tae-sung smiled. "I know. Girl, dinner time soon." He was about to head back to the house when he saw them. Lights in the sky, not airplane lights, not stars. These lights moved in strange patterns, dancing and spinning like nothing he had ever seen. Tae-sung stood frozen, watching. The lights grew bigger, closer. His heart started beating faster. He thought about running to the house, but his legs would not move. The lights were directly above him now, so bright he had to cover his eyes. He felt a strange pulling sensation, like invisible hands grabbing him from all sides. His feet left the ground. Tae-sung shouted, reaching for anything to hold on to, but there was only air. The pulling got stronger. He rose higher and higher, the farm getting smaller below him. He saw Bomi running in circles, scared. The chickens scattered. Then everything went white. When Tae-sung opened his eyes, he was lying on a cold metal floor. The walls around him were smooth and silver, glowing with soft blue light. He sat up quickly, his head spinning. Where was he? What happened? He touched the walls. They were real. Cold. This was not a dream. "Hello?" His voice echoed in the small room. No answer. He stood up and walked to what looked like a door, but there was no handle. He pushed it. Nothing. He banged on it with his fist. "Hello! Someone! Anyone!" A sound made him turn. Part of the wall was becoming transparent. Through it, he could see into another room. There were 3 other people there, all looking as confused and scared as he felt. One was a young woman with short hair, maybe 20 years old. Next to her stood a man with thick arms and work clothes. The third was a woman with glasses who kept touching the walls like she was studying them. Tae-sung pressed his hand against the transparent wall. The young woman saw him and ran over, pressing her hand against the other side. She was crying. "What's happening?" she called out, but the wall was too thick. He could barely hear her. Then they came. The door to Tae-sung's room slid open. 3 creatures walked in. They were tall, taller than any human, with gray-blue skin that looked smooth like plastic. Their heads were large, their eyes were black and round, and they had only 3 fingers on each hand. They wore clothes that looked like armor but moved like cloth. Tae-sung backed against the wall. His mouth went dry. These were not people. These were not from Earth. One of the creatures pointed a small device at him. It made a soft beeping sound. The creature looked at the device, then at Tae-sung, then made sounds that were not words, not human words anyway. Another creature grabbed his arm. Its grip was strong but not painful. Tae-sung tried to pull away, but it was useless. They pushed him down onto a table that rose from the floor. Metal bands wrapped around his arms and legs, holding him down. He struggled and shouted, but they ignored him. They pointed more devices at him, taking measurements, making those strange sounds to each other. They treated him like he treated his plants, like a thing to study, a specimen. The next weeks were a nightmare. Tae-sung learned he was on a ship, a spaceship. The other humans were named Haiwan, Yoon-sik, and Ji-eun. They could talk to each other through the transparent walls, shouting to be heard. Haiwan said she had been taken from a boat. Yunsik was grabbed from a construction site. Ji-Yeon disappeared while walking home from university. The aliens came every day. Sometimes they took blood. Sometimes they made them walk on strange machines. Sometimes they just watched them, taking notes on glowing tablets. They gave them food that looked like gray paste and tasted like nothing. It kept them alive, but it was not real food. Tae-sung spent his time watching. He had nothing else to do. He watched the aliens carefully. He noticed that some aliens wore different colored uniforms. The ones with red uniforms gave orders. The ones with gray uniforms did the work. The red ones were mean to the gray ones, pushing them, shouting at them in that strange language. He watched the walls and noticed patterns in the lights. He watched when they brought food and figured out it was twice a day. He watched the aliens' faces and started recognizing individuals. One gray-uniformed alien was younger than the others. It sometimes looked at the humans with something in its eyes. Not hate. Maybe curiosity. Maybe something like sadness. Tae-sung was a farmer. Farmers knew how to wait. They knew how to watch. They knew when to act and when to stay still. So he watched, and he waited, and he learned. Because he knew one thing for certain. He was going home. Somehow. No matter what it took. He had a farm waiting for him. Bomi needed to be fed. The tomatoes needed to be picked. And nobody, not even creatures from the stars, was going to keep him from his land forever. 3 months passed on the alien ship. Tae-sung kept count by scratching lines on the floor with his fingernail when the aliens were not looking. 93 lines. 93 days away from his farm. Away from home. Away from everything that made sense. Then things got worse. The gray paste they called food started coming less often. First 3 times a day, then twice, then once. The aliens seemed upset. The red-uniformed ones shouted more at the gray-uniformed ones. Something was wrong. Even Tae-sung could tell that. Through the transparent walls, he saw Ji-eun getting thinner. Yunsik slept most of the time now. Hae-won kept her face strong, but her hands shook. They were all starving slowly. One day, the young gray-uniformed alien came to Tae-sung's cell alone. It looked around nervously, then touched something on its uniform. Suddenly, sounds came from it. Words. Human words. Food, broken. Ship, problem. You, die soon. Tae-sung stood up quickly. The alien could speak human language? You understand me? Little, learn, watch you. The alien's voice was rough, like it was learning to use its throat differently. Name Thex, you... Name? Tae-sung. His heart was beating fast. This was the first real conversation in 3 months. Why are you telling me this? Not right. Captain say, kill humans, save food for Velkari. Thex looked sad. I not want. You, not animals. You, people. Tae-sung felt cold. They were going to kill them. What's wrong with the food? Biodome. Where grow food? Sick. Plants die. Food machine broken. Captain not no fix. Thex made a gesture like giving up. All ship. Hungry soon. Something clicked in Tae-sung's mind. Plants? You grow plants for food? Yes. Big room. Many plants. But sick. Bad things grow. Kill plants. Take me there. The words came out before Tae-sung could think. Take me to see the plants. Thex stepped back, surprised. Not allowed. You prisoner. Listen to me. Tae-sung moved closer to the transparent wall. I am a farmer. I grow plants. I fix sick plants. It is what I do. It is all I do. Maybe I can help. Thex was quiet for a long moment. Captain not listen. Humans not smart, he say. Then we all die. You, me, everyone on this ship. Tae-sung kept his voice calm. What do you lose by trying? 2 days later, Tae-sung stood in the biodome. It was huge, bigger than his entire farm, rows and rows of plants under bright lights. but most of the plants were brown and dying. Gray, fuzzy stuff covered their leaves and stems. The smell was bad, like rot. Captain Rick 7 stood behind him with 2 guards. The captain was tall, with darker blue skin than the others. He looked at Tae-sung like a person looks at garbage. "Fix this, human. If not, you die today. All humans die." Tae-sung ignored him and walked to the plants. He touched a leaf gently, breaking off a piece. He smelled it. He looked at the soil. He checked under the leaves. Then he walked to another section and did the same thing. The captain made impatient sounds, but Tae-sung kept working. Finally, he turned to Thex, who was translating. "This is a fungus, a bad mold. I have seen this before, on Earth, in my fields." "Can fix?" Thex asked. "Maybe, but I need things." Tae-sung pointed to different plants around the dome. "These plants here, they are growing okay. Move them away from sick plants. Separate them. Also, too much water. The soil is too wet. Fungus loves wet. Make it more dry." Through Thex, he explained more. They needed airflow. The plants were too close together. In nature, plants have space. They have wind. Here, everything was too tight, too perfect, too controlled. It created the perfect place for fungus to spread. "More," Tae-sung said. "You have other plants here, not food plants. These ones." He pointed to decorative plants in corners. "These can help. On Earth, we plant them with food plants. They make the soil better. They keep bugs away. They fight sickness." The captain made angry sounds. "Nonsense! Ancient methods! We are advanced! We have technology!" "Your technology is not working," Tae-sung said quietly. "My ancient methods kept my family fed for 300 years. The captain wanted to refuse. Tae-sung could see it in his face. But Thex said something fast in their language, and other gray-uniformed aliens nearby made sounds of agreement. They were hungry, too. They wanted to try anything. "Fine," the captain snapped. 3 days. If plants not better, you die." Tae-sung got to work. He showed the gray-uniformed workers how to separate plants, how to improve drainage, how to increase airflow. He taught them companion planting, putting certain plants next to each other to help both grow stronger. He had them remove all the dead plants and clean everything carefully. Hae-won was brought to help. She looked at the water systems and got excited. "This is similar to aquaponics. If we add fish to this water, they make nutrients for plants. Plants clean water for fish. Cycle!" Yoon-sik fixed broken ventilation using tools the aliens had. "Airflow was blocked," he explained. "Simple problem, simple fix." Ji-eun helped translate better as Thex taught her more of the alien language. She learned fast. Being young and smart, the gray-uniformed aliens watched everything with wonder. They had grown these plants the same way for generations, following old instructions without understanding why. Now these humans were teaching them things their own officers did not know. 3 days passed. The fungus stopped spreading. 5 days passed. New green shoots appeared on plants. 10 days passed. The biodome was producing food again. 14 days passed. The food production was twice what it had been before the fungus. Captain Rick 7 stood in the biodome, staring at healthy plants growing in neat rows. The gray paste food machine was working again, using the fresh plants. His face showed confusion and anger and something else. Fear, maybe. Fear that everything he believed was wrong. "How?" he finally asked. Tae-sung shrugged. "I listened to the plants. I gave them what they needed, not what I wanted them to need, what they actually needed." Thex translated, then added his own words to the captain. The captain's face went dark, but he nodded. "Humans moved to crew quarters. No more cells. They work in biodome now." It was not freedom, but it was better than a cell. That night, in his new small room with a real bed, Tae-sung lay awake. He had saved them all, at least for now. But a thought kept bothering him. if their farming was this bad. What else was wrong with these aliens? What else did they not understand? And what did that mean for wherever this ship was going? Word spread through the ship faster than Tae-sung expected. The humans who fixed the impossible problem, the primitives who saved the advanced Velkari from starving. Every gray-uniformed worker knew the story. Some came to the biodome just to watch the humans work, to learn, to ask questions through Thex's translation. But the red-uniformed officers told a different story. Captain Rixa 7 announced that he had solved the food crisis through brilliant leadership. The officers took credit for every improvement, every new technique. The humans were just following Velkari instructions, they said, just doing simple work. Tae-sung did not care about credit. He cared about staying alive and maybe, someday, getting home. But he saw how it hurt Thex and the other workers. They had learned real skills, felt proud for the first time, and now the officers were stealing that too. "Why do you accept this?" Tae-sung asked Thex one day as they planted new seeds together. "Born gray uniform, die gray uniform, this is way." Thex's translator made the words sound sad. "Officers born red, they lead, we serve, always been this way. But you are smarter than half the officers I have seen. Not matter, birth matter, only birth matter." Tae-sung thought about his own farm, where a good harvest came from hard work, not from who your parents were. This system the Velkari had seemed stupid and wasteful. But it was not his problem. He just needed to survive until he could find a way home. Then the ship arrived at Velkara Prime, the Velkari home world. Through the windows, Tae-sung saw a planet covered in cities and gray factories, almost no green anywhere. They landed at a massive port where thousands of ships came and went. Thex explained they were here to resupply, then the humans would be transferred to the Imperial Research Facility for permanent study. Permanent study? Ji-eun's face went white. That means forever. They will never let us go. That night, Thex came to their quarters with 5 other gray-uniformed workers. They looked nervous, scared. "We need help," Thex said. "Not for ship, for world, for families." Through broken sentences and gestures, they explained. The home world was dying. The farms could not grow enough food. The cities were full of hungry people. The officers had solutions, but the solutions did not work, just like on the ship. Only the rich officers ate well. The workers starved. "We see what you do, how you fix, how you teach." Thex looked directly at Tae-sung. "Can you fix Planet 2? I am just one farmer. A planet is huge. You teach. We learn. We teach others. Others teach more." Thex grabbed Tae-sung's hand with his 3-fingered grip. "Please, my child is hungry. All children hungry. You help?" Tae-sung looked at the other humans. Hae-won nodded slowly. Yoon-sik crossed his arms but said, "If we are stuck here anyway, might as well do something good." Ji-eun spoke up. "But how? They are taking us to this research facility tomorrow. We will be locked up forever." "Then we do not go quietly," Hae-won said. "We make noise. We make people see us." The next morning, when the transport came to take the humans away, Thex and 50 gray-uniformed workers stood blocking the door. They did not have weapons. They just stood there, silent. More workers came, then more. Within an hour, 300 workers surrounded the transport, refusing to let it leave with the humans. Captain Rick 7 arrived with guards. "Move or be arrested." "We no move," Thex said. "Humans help us. We protect humans." "They are property of the Empire. Research specimens." "They are teachers," another worker shouted. "They give us knowledge officers hide from us." The crowd grew. News of the protests spread through the port. Workers from other ships joined. By noon, thousands of gray-uniformed Velkari filled the landing area. They did not fight. They did not destroy anything. They just stood there, surrounding the humans, refusing to move. Then she arrived. A ship landed, smaller but more elegant than the others. From it stepped a tall female Velkari in deep purple uniform that Tae-sung had never seen before. She walked straight through the crowd, and workers moved aside with respect. She stopped in front of Captain Rick 7, and they argued in sharp, fast words. Thex whispered translation. "That is Commander Darin, Emperor's daughter. She is different from other officers. Cares about workers sometimes." Commander Darin turned to the humans. Her translator spoke in perfect human language. "You are the primitives who saved a starship with farming methods?" "We are people who knew how to fix a problem," Tae-sung answered. "We are not primitives." Her large black eyes studied him. "Interesting. Captain Rick 7 says you are barely intelligent animals. These workers say you are teachers who shared knowledge freely. Two very different stories." "We can show you what we did. Judge for yourself." She thought for a moment, then spoke to the crowd in their language. Thex translated. "She says the humans will not go to research facility today. She wants to see the biodome. She wants proof." They took her to the ship and showed her everything. Tae-sung explained the companion planting, the airflow improvements, the natural pest control. Haewon explained the aquaponics system she designed. Yoon-sik showed the structural repairs. Ji-eun demonstrated how well she had learned the Velkari language and could teach others. Commander Darin listened to everything. She asked smart questions. She touched the plants, tasted the food, spoke to the gray-uniformed workers who had learned from the humans. Finally, she stood in the center of the biodome and looked at Tae-sung for a long time. "My father is Emperor Kanzul. He is old and stuck in old ways. But even he knows our empire is dying. Food runs out. Workers rebel. We steal technology but cannot innovate." She paused. "Maybe we need something different, something new." "What are you saying?" Tae-sung asked. "I am saying, I will take you to my father. I will propose a challenge. If you can fix our most damaged colony worlds using your methods, you will be granted freedom and citizenship. You can teach our people, change our empire. And if we fail, then you return to your Earth with your memories erased, and my empire continues dying slowly." She looked sad. "But at least we tried something new." "That is more than we have done in 1,000 years. Tae-sung looked at the other humans. They looked back at him. Going home meant forgetting everything, living like none of this happened. But trying meant risking failure, meant staying in this strange place even longer. But he thought about Thex's hungry child, about thousands of workers who had stood to protect them, about a whole empire of people who suffered because their leaders were too proud to change. "We will try," he said. Commander Darin smiled, showing teeth. "Then let us go meet my father, farmer. Let us see if the Emperor of the Velkari Empire will listen to a human." The Imperial Palace was the biggest building Tae-sung had ever seen. Towers of silver metal reached into the sky. Gardens surrounded it, but the plants looked strange and unhealthy, like they were forced to grow in unnatural shapes. Everything was about showing power, not about beauty or function. It reminded Tae-sung of rich people's gardens back home, where appearance mattered more than actual life. Emperor Kanzul sat on a throne that floated above the floor. He was old, his skin darker blue and wrinkled. His eyes were tired. Around him stood dozens of red-uniformed officers, all watching the humans like they were dangerous animals. Commander Darin spoke to her father in their language for a long time. The officers argued back. Voices got loud. Finally, the Emperor raised one hand and everyone went silent. His translator spoke in human words. "My daughter tells an interesting story. Humans who farm better than Velkari scientists. Primitives who teach our workers new methods." He leaned forward. "This is either a miracle or a trick. I will discover which." "It is neither, Emperor," Taesung said, stepping forward. Guards moved to stop him, but the Emperor waved them back. It is just knowledge. Knowledge that should be shared, not hidden. Bold words from a specimen. But the Emperor did not sound angry. He sounded curious. My daughter proposes a challenge. You will take a small crew to 3 of our worst colony worlds. You will fix their agricultural problems. You have 1 Velkari year. If you succeed, you earn freedom and teaching rights throughout the Empire. If you fail, you return to your primitive planet and forget all of this. What happens to the workers who helped us? Taesung asked. To Thex and the others? The Emperor looked surprised. You worry about gray uniforms? I worry about people who showed us kindness when no one else did. Something changed in the Emperor's expression. If you succeed, they will receive honors. If you fail, they will be punished for supporting failures. So it was all or nothing. Succeed and help everyone, or fail and hurt those who trusted them. Taesung felt the weight of it, but he also felt something else. Confidence. He knew plants. He knew soil and water and growing things. That knowledge did not change just because he was on a different planet. We accept, he said. The first colony world was called Keltar 3. The ship ride took 2 weeks. Taesung spent the time learning what he could about the planet through Thex's translations. It had once been the Empire's biggest food producer. Now it barely fed itself. When they landed, Taesung saw why. The soil was gray and dead, like ash. Fields stretched for miles, all planted with the same crop in perfect rows. Nothing else. No trees, no different plants, no diversity at all. Farmers worked with machines, following exact instructions, planting the same thing in the same way they had for hundreds of years. Monoculture, Haewon whispered. They killed the soil by planting only one thing forever. The colonial governor, an arrogant officer named Tech 4, met them with contempt. The Emperor sends primitives to solve our problems? Insulting. Then we will fail and leave, Taesung said calmly. We can go back to the ship right now. Tech 4 sneered. Fine, try your tricks. When you fail, remember that I allowed this foolishness. Taesung walked into the fields with his team. He dug into the soil with his hands, smelled it, felt its texture, dead, completely dead. No nutrients, no life, nothing, just empty dirt. Can we fix this? Ji-yoon asked quietly. Yes, but it will take work. Taesung called the local farmers over. They came slowly, looking tired and hopeless. Through Thex, he asked them questions. What grew here before? What plants were native? Were there any forests left? The farmers answered, surprised anyone cared about their knowledge. Yes, there was a forest preserve on the other side of the continent. Yes, certain plants used to grow wild here before the Empire cleared everything for farming. Taesung made a plan. First, they needed to bring life back to the soil. He sent Yoon-sik to design simple composting systems using plant waste that the colony was throwing away. He sent Ji-un to the forest preserve to study native plants and bring back seeds. He sent Haewon to test the water systems and find ways to reduce waste. Then he taught the local farmers about crop rotation. Plant different things in different seasons. Let soil rest sometimes. Use plants that put nutrients back into the ground. Mix food crops with plants that fight pests naturally. Work with nature, not against it. The colonial governor tried to stop them. He made laws against changing the official planting schedules. But the farmers ignored him. They were so tired of barely surviving that they would try anything, even if it came from primitives. 3 months later, the first new crops came up. They were small but healthy, growing in soil that was slowly coming back to life. 6 months later, food production increased by 30%. The farmers smiled for the first time in years. News spread to other colonies. When Taesung's team arrived at the second world, Dran 7, the workers were already organizing, ready to learn. This planet had different problems. too little water and extreme heat. But the solutions were similar. Find native plants adapted to heat, use them to shade food crops, build water collection systems from local materials, design gardens that hold moisture instead of letting it evaporate. Yun-sik became a hero here, teaching workers how to build efficient irrigation using gravity and simple machines instead of expensive pumps that constantly broke. Heiwan discovered a native plant that stored water in its roots and taught people how to grow it alongside food crops. The third world was the hardest. Loch 9 had plenty of water and good soil, but corrupt officials controlled all the food production. They kept prices high and production low on purpose, making themselves rich while people starved. The governor here tried to sabotage the humans' work, even poisoning some of the new crops. This time, the workers fought back. Led by Thex and other believers in the human methods, they surrounded the governor's compound peacefully. They did not attack. They just stopped working until the governor resigned. Commander Doreen arrived with soldiers and arrested the governor for treason against the Empire. With honest leadership, Loch 9's transformation was the fastest. Within 8 months, all 3 colony worlds were producing more food than ever. More importantly, the local farmers had learned the methods and were teaching others. The knowledge was spreading like seeds on the wind. Tae-sung stood in a field on Loch 9, watching workers harvest vegetables using companion planting techniques. A young Velkari child ran up to him, offering him a piece of fruit. "Thank you, teacher," the child said in broken human language. Tae-sung took the fruit and smiled. He thought about his own farm, so far away. He wondered if the tomatoes were growing, if someone was feeding Bomi, if his family thought he was dead. But he also thought about this child who would not go hungry tonight, about Thex's daughter who now had food, about thousands of workers who now had hope and skills and pride in their work. "We should head back to the capital," Commander Doreen said, walking up beside him. "My father waits. The challenge is complete, and you have exceeded every expectation. You have earned your freedom, human." Freedom. The word felt strange. Free to do what? Go home and forget all this? Or stay and help more? Tae-sung bit into the fruit. It tasted sweet. "Let us go see your father," he said. "I think I have some things to say to him." The throne room was packed with Velkari from all levels of society. Gray-uniformed workers stood shoulder to shoulder with red-uniformed officers. News of the humans' success had spread across every world in the Empire. Some called it a miracle. Others called it a threat to tradition. Emperor Khanzul looked older than before, like the weight of his empire was crushing him. He raised his hand for silence. "The humans have completed the challenge. All 3 colony worlds now produce more food than in the last 100 years. The terms were clear. They have earned freedom and citizenship." Cheers erupted from the workers, but the officers remained silent, faces dark with anger. One stepped forward, a high-ranking noble named Mortek. "This is madness. We bow to primitives? We let them change 1,000-year traditions? What next? Shall we make them our rulers?" "Maybe you should," Tae-sung said quietly, but his voice carried through the hall. Everyone turned to look at him. "Your traditions are killing you. Your pride is starving your people. You have amazing technology, but you forgot the most important knowledge: how to work with nature, not against it. How to listen instead of command." Mortek's face went purple with rage. He shouted something in Velkari and pulled out a small weapon, aiming it at Tae-sung. But before he could fire, Commander Darin moved faster than Tae-sung thought possible. She struck Mortek's arm and the weapon clattered to the floor. Her soldiers surrounded him. "Arrest him," she ordered. "Attempted murder of an imperial guest is treason." As soldiers dragged Mortek away, he screamed threats and accusations. Other officers looked nervous. Commander Darin scanned the crowd. "Anyone else wish to object with violence?" Silence. But Tae-sung could feel the tension. This was bigger than farming now. This was about power, about who controlled the empire's future. Emperor Kanzul stood slowly from his throne. The entire room held its breath. "I am old," he said finally. "I have ruled for 60 years. I have seen our empire grow weak. I have watched our people suffer. I kept hoping the old ways would work again, that we just needed to follow tradition more strictly." He looked at Tae-sung. "I was wrong." Gasps filled the room. An emperor admitting fault was unheard of. These humans showed us that knowledge is not about who teaches it, but whether it works. That innovation matters more than tradition. That listening to all voices, not just noble ones, makes us stronger. The emperor's voice grew stronger. "I am too old to change, too stuck in the past. Our empire needs new leadership, leadership that can learn and adapt." He touched a control on his throne. "I hereby declare myself unfit to rule and abdicate my position. A new emperor will be chosen not by bloodline, but by a council representing all castes and all worlds. Let the best leader rise, regardless of birth." Chaos erupted. Officers shouted protests. Workers cheered. Commander Darin stood frozen in shock. The emperor stepped down from his floating throne and walked to his daughter. "You are young and strong. You can change what I could not. Lead them." "Father, She looked overwhelmed. "But not alone," the emperor continued. He turned to Tae-sung. "You should lead too." "Me?" Tae-sung shook his head. "I am just a farmer. I do not want to rule anyone." "That is exactly why you should." The emperor smiled sadly. "Those who want power least are often those who use it best. You proved you care about the people, not the position. That is what a true leader does." Over the next 3 days, the council met. Representatives from every world and every caste argued and debated. The officers wanted Commander Darin as sole ruler, maintaining some tradition. The workers wanted Tae-sung, the human who had helped them. Both sides refused to compromise. Finally, Commander Darin stood before the council. "We are arguing about the wrong thing. Leadership is not about one person being in charge. It is about using everyone's strengths." She looked at Tae-sung. "The human understands how to grow things, how to teach, how to build from the ground up. I understand how to protect, how to organize, how to maintain order. Together we can do what neither could do alone." The council agreed to a new government structure. Tae-sung would be first steward, responsible for agricultural development, education reform, and social programs. Commander Darin would be Commander General, responsible for defense, law, and governance. They would share leadership of the reformed Velkari Commonwealth. Decisions would require agreement from both leaders and approval from the council. It was messy and complicated, but maybe that was good. Simple solutions had failed the empire for generations. At the first official Commonwealth Congress, Tae-sung presented his 5-year plan. Hae-won stood beside him as Minister of Environmental Development. Yoon-sik was Director of Infrastructure. Ji-yoon had become Ambassador to Earth, beginning peaceful contact between humans and Velkari. Thex and hundreds of other former gray uniform workers now held positions based on skill, not birth. "The plan is simple," Tae-sung told the assembled representatives. "We teach. We share knowledge freely. We let every person, regardless of caste or origin, learn and contribute. We work with nature instead of trying to control it. We measure success not by how much power we have, but by how many people we help." Some officers still objected. Change was hard, especially for those who benefited from the old ways. But the workers supported the reforms completely, and they outnumbered the nobles greatly. For the first time in Velkari history, the majority voice mattered. That night, Tae-sung sat alone in his quarters, tending a small garden he had planted. Earth tomatoes grew next to Velkari vegetables, 2 worlds learning to grow together. His door chimed. It was Ji-eun holding a tablet. I have been speaking with Earth through the new diplomatic channels, she said, excitement in her voice. I found your family. They are alive and well. Your brother has been caring for your farm. She turned the tablet to show a video message. Tae-sung's son, Woo Jin, appeared on the screen. He looked older, more tired, but he was smiling. Father, we heard what happened. At first we thought you were dead. Then Ambassador Ji-un contacted us. We cannot believe it. You are leading an alien empire? He laughed, and it was a good laugh. Mother would be so proud. We are proud. The farm is waiting for when you return, but we understand if you have more important work to do now. Just, come visit when you can, okay? And bring some of those space vegetables. I want to see if they grow here. The message ended. Tae-sung felt tears on his face. He missed home so much it hurt. But he looked around his quarters, at the reports on his desk about food programs reaching the poorest worlds, at messages from workers thanking him for giving them hope. He could not go back. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The farmer from Earth had somehow become a leader of worlds. It felt impossible and terrifying and completely wrong for someone like him. But he thought about something his father once told him. A good farmer does not own the land. He serves it. He gives it what it needs, and in return, it feeds his family. Maybe leadership was like that. Not about power or glory, but about service. About giving people what they needed to grow. Tae-sung stood and walked to the window. Outside, the capital city of Velkara Prime glowed with lights. Millions of lives, all depending on the choices he and others made. It was terrifying, but also, in a strange way, familiar. He was still a farmer, just with a much, much bigger field to tend. And like any good farmer, he would wake up tomorrow and get to work. There were seeds to plant, knowledge to share, and people to help. One day at a time, one plant at a time, one world at a time. The harvest would come. He just had to be patient and keep working. After all, that is what farmers do.